Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of In the Dark. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, we have that 8 hours earlier cut of it's like, okay, so we got Jess and Sterling in bed together and everything, and it's just like, oh, so how's this all going to turn out? And it's like Jess was going through her bag. I was like, oh gosh, she's going to find something. But then Sterling was like, no, you can go through. I was like, oh. You're so confident because you know you have nothing to hide. I was like, okay, I guess you got rid of anything incriminating ahead of time. I guess the person, most likely if you still had your phone, Sam or Nia would have been blown. Well, Sam in particular would have been blowing it up. It's like, whoa. So that would have been an issue. But nevertheless, for Sterling to wake up and hear someone rattling at the door, I was like, oh, it's gonna be, and it's Sam, dude. She's like, oh, so this is where you've been, playing house with Jess and stuff like that, and pulls a gun on her, and it's like, oh, you know me, I'll do it too. I was like, jeez. Sterling manages to get away from Sam. Good thing too, she did a smart thing too, because under these situations, sometimes people just attack the person and then bounce. I'm like, no, pick up their weapon too. So Sam Sterling pepper sprays her and takes the gun and jacks her car too. So it's like, okay, she tracks down Jess, who's at the store, and it's like, okay, I was like, okay, so how's this all going to relate? And it's like, oh yeah, she heard Sam's voicemail. She had a voicemail from Nia being like, oh yeah, Murphy betrayed me. And it's like, crap. Tracks down Jess. Is like, okay, Murphy's in trouble. Nia's after. It's like, wait, how do you know about the whole Nia thing? I don't have time to. No, how do you know? I worked for her. I was kind of her insider. Wait, what? We don't have time for this. Murphy's in trouble. Jess is like, I'm going to go. You stay. She's like, no, you stay. Jess does some investigating. She gets back to Murphy's place, investigates and sees that, she's tracking Murphy's phone and knows at least at a bar. She's there waiting. She sneaks in, grabs the gun from Ben, and shoots Nia. It seems like because I thought so, because she fired 3 shots, but when you look at Nia, she only got hit twice. I mean, to be fair, Jess isn't well trained with a gun. Or didn't? Am I misremembering it? Didn't she go shooting? I kind of felt like I might be confusing it with something. I'm about to say, didn't she go shooting with her girlfriend in season 1? Probably not. Like I said, I'm probably confusing that with something else. But she missed the first shot and hit with the other 2. But whatever the case may be, she drops Nia. I think if you probably went back, you probably would have noticed. I never noticed. Maybe I'm curious if that a detail they focused on or not. The gun dropping, the gun in the hand. I don't think you saw any fingernail polish, but you might have, and I'm just not remembering. So you probably could go back and be like, oh, it was showing you that it was a lady who ended up pulling the. Well, could be a dude with fingernail polish, but still, kind of narrowed it down to be like, oh, it's probably a lady who ended up pulling the trigger. But regardless. The fact of the matter is, I was like, okay, she dropped the gun. Then, Vincent walks out, and they're just looking at each other and he's going over towards Murphy, and she picks up the gun. It's like, don't. And then Sterling comes in, extra don't. And he starts running. She fires a shot off. He ends up getting away. I'm like, oh, that sucks. Last thing you want is him to be spitting out, oh yeah, the fact did you kill Nia? I was like, okay. So now we're in a situation that everyone's gathered up. It's like, okay, so what do we do in this situation? Because of debate, it's do we just leave the bodies here, make it seem like Ben killed Nia, then shot up and died? But it's like, no, can't do that because literally Murphy's blood is everywhere. So it's and it's if we try to just clean up her blood, it's just going to make it look more suspicious. That there was something else here, there's something to hide. So they're all trying to, once again, these people aren't criminal masterminds. I say out of anyone, I don't know how Sterling ended up being a criminal mastermind. What I also thought was kind of dope was everyone's bouncing back and forth about ideas because they're like, all right, we'll just leave. All right, we'll take Nia's body. We'll leave Ben's here. And he was like, Felix was like, no, the last thing I want is Chelsea to open up and find her dead brother in front of her. So it's Jess was like, no, in the discussion, we're getting rid of both of the bodies. And I was like, holy shit, Jess had to be the one to step up and be like, no, dudes, this is what we're doing. But doing what I was saying, going back to what I was saying, it seemed like Sterling was the criminal mastermind in this case. I'm like, the fact of the matter is, have you had to dispose of bodies before? You were just too quick on the draw with some of that stuff about how to handle this. Once again, these are amateurs. It's not like I said, we're dealing with this is Ozark level, bumbling your way through stuff type of situation. Once again, you can't help but make the comparison because I think it's a great comparison because I love Ozark, and I think this show is just easily, especially this season, has really kicked up to some damn Ozark level stuff. In retrospect, and when you look back on season 1, you can definitely see it, but definitely this season really has those very Ozark vibes to them. But nevertheless, so it's okay, so there's that. You got your boy Dean calling up Nia, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Then gets a knock at the door. Who is it? Gene. The look on Dean's face like, wait, you're supposed to be dead. I sold you out. I sold you out to Nia's people to kill you. Wait, you're still alive. Wait, everything must have gone super wrong. He's like, yeah, I couldn't find the drugs. Check the truck. No. Went back to Guy to Hope, and it's like, they're not there. And he's like, oh, maybe like Nia's people got to you. He's like, no, it couldn't be. He's like, oh, maybe they're still at Guy to Hope. It's like, no, because I was there the entire time. Nia's people didn't show up because Nia's people didn't show up until after he was already chasing after Murphy, Felix, and Max. So once again, they're them doing what they did actually inadvertently saved Gene, and I love how like that ripple effect, and it's just, and this in turn completely and utterly screwed Dean over because obviously he needs the money. Then one of my favorite things later on, it's like, all right, Vincent's there, loading up cash. Sam's like, yo, where's Nia? Yeah, Nia's dead. Wait, what? Guiding Hope kids killed her, and like Sam is just like, you know what? Who was it in particular? I was like, oh, it's gonna be extra sweet killing Jess for her. Like, I hope it doesn't come down to that. But in her mind, in Sam's mind, it's like, oh, I'm gonna feel good about it because you turned my girlfriend against me. So she blames Jess already. Plus, on top of that, you killed Nia, dude. Then your boy Dean comes knocking at the door. I was supposed to get my percentage. Just like, yeah, that's off. Why? Nia's dead. What? Yeah, Guiding Hope kids killed her. So we got no business with you here. Bounce. And just in that moment, Dean's entire world came crashing down. He has no job. The money he was counting on from Nia, like working with her, that all blew up in his face because in that one moment, it all came crashing down. He has nothing now. And he can't take care of his daughter. He can't take care, so it's like, what am I going to do? Obviously, he's not telling Chloe that he lost his job because he's even saying like, oh, I'm going into work for a little while because he was meant to, he's trying to meet up with Nia and everything. But it's like, he's going to be extra pissed now knowing like, holy crap, they screwed me. Like, it's like, it's bad enough. Like everything he was doing was, for self-preservation and stuff like that. But now inadvertently Murphy and the crew ended up screwing him over severely. So now he's in a desperate need, which part of me goes, okay, so does this mean that in the future we might see him? It's like, well, Nia might be removed, but it's like, well, there's one more person out there I could go to, Josiah, because I know he's mixed up in all this. He could use a cop on the inside. Wait, I'm not a cop anymore. So it's like, am I going to be any use to him? At least him and Nia had a prior rapport, so it made that situation easy. Like, he has no prior, like, relationship with Josiah, so like that wouldn't be a partnership. Once again, like, what value would you bring? Because it's like, yeah, you might, he still has his cop connections because Gene is still a friend. It's like, oh, let me know what you're up to, and Gene probably like, oh yeah, we about to raid this and that. So he can still come at it from that point of view, but him not being a cop just kind of adds less value to him. So that's a whole thing to think about too. So now the whole question is like, okay, so we're going to get rid of Nia's body, but it's like, no, because if we bury they want to bury Nia's body like out in the woods, but it's like, wait, you want to do that to Ben's too? He's like Felix was like, no, we can't do that because if we do that, Chelsea will never know what happened to her brother. And it's like, well, we can't take the chance we leave his body anywhere else because that's going to bring up a whole bunch of questions. But Felix was like, no, we're going to drop him off at a hospital. Murphy agreed, which I guess in retrospect it should have been. But I thought, after everything they've been through, I thought she was like, no, I understand, especially considering the fact is, but Chelsea's their friend, so I think there's going to be a level of kind of feeling bad about that. I skipped over like a crap ton of stuff, like for example, like that moment where like Murphy is asking Jess if she's okay, and Jess is like, I just need time to figure things out, and she's asking Murphy, are you okay? And Murphy's like, yeah, I'm okay. Both of them trying to be strong because this is, especially for Jess, it's like so much got thrown at you at once. It's like, wait, your girlfriend not just your girlfriend, your fiance, because you proposed to her. It's like, wait, in one instant you found out, wait, she's been working with Nia. Wait, Nia wants to kill Murphy. Wait, I killed Nia. What? Now we got to dispose of not only Nia's body, but also Ben's. It's like a shit ton of stuff hitting all at once, There was even that thing of like, oh yeah, Max had found something for them to wrap the body up in, and Felix unrolls it, and it's like a banner saying like Happy St. Patrick's Day. He looks at Max, and Max like, what? That's the only thing I can find. I was like, oh, that's like, I think that's supposed to be like a bit of a morbid joke, So I was just like, okay. So they're going in the woods, they're disposing of the bodies, having to dig. It's like the ground's not frozen, so it shouldn't be too hard, but they kind of have to dig for a while. Obviously, like, Sterling and Jess, that's a whole complicated, nasty thing of like Jess is just fed up with like Sterling because it's just like, and obviously Murphy's kind of giving her shit too, and she's like, wait, what are you talking about? Oh, you talk about me lying. What about you and Felix lied to Jess? And they're like, yeah, we lied to protect her. Basically, like, what's your excuse? She's like, I was doing my job. You were doing your job. It's like, if you guys had just done your job, what you were supposed to, we wouldn't even be in this situation. Even going further and saying that basically everything's kind of on Murphy. I mean, it's like, truth be told, is once again, this all rippled from, which if you want to really, really go back, you can be like, technically it's Max's fault. Then you can be, I mean, you could literally, like, no one is innocent in it. It's everyone had their own, like, everyone had their individual parts to play that ended up leading up to the situation. So it's not like anyone's innocent. Like, everyone played their own role to get where they are. I also skipped over the whole thing of like them going there and running into Murphy's mom. I thought that was kind of neat. I was like, oh shit, because we haven't seen her mom or dad since like earlier in the season when Felix bought. No, that was that last season or was this season? I think it was this season if I remember correct. Yeah, like he got guiding hope from them, right? I'm blurring so much of that together. Sorry. But nevertheless, like her mom, it's like, well, what are you doing? It's like, oh yeah, we're guiding hope. We were working on this charity thing. She's like, what? You told me my daughter would be up at 6 a.m. working on a charity thing? I was like, oh, I'm so proud of you. And you could tell that just hits Murphy hard because it's like, you're proud of me, mom. Yeah. And despite all like the murdery, criminal stuff I just been associated with literally hours ago. Yeah. Because there was also the whole thing too of like, because even Felix brought it up, like, what do we do about the drugs? It's like, well, we don't have to, we got too much on our plate right now. It's like, no, Josiah isn't the type of dude that's gonna wait around. We don't want him to think we screwed him over, which he does think you screwed him over. There's even a whole thing of her like talking to Josh and that being in front of Max and that just being an awkward situation. So there's awkward relationship stuff all over the place. Then, like, obviously there's a whole thing of, like, oh, so we're going to dump Ben's body, too. He's like, wait, no, Murphy, you just agreed with me because this was the plan the entire time. She's like, yeah, because I knew if I didn't agree with you, you wouldn't be down for this. He's like, I'm done. And he walks away. It's like, you can get Sterling to help dispose of Ben's body. So Nia and Ben's body's there. There's also the evidence. Once again, more showing you just like how criminally smart Sterling is, because she's like, no, don't throw any of the evidence away in like the trash can, because that could always kind of circle back and be like, oh, what's this? It's like, no, bury it with the bodies as well. So it's like, Jesus, dude, this is a lot. Also, Max and Murphy bang it out. I'm like, this is, once again, that's kind of morbid. You're kind of banging it out over a hole that you're digging for people's body. I wonder, did Jess kind of figure out, she's looking down at it, she's like, is that all you've done? And they're like, yeah, we went to go, bathroom break and stuff like that. And it's just like, okay. That's just kind of crazy. It's like, but to be fair, it's that thing of like, it's a heightened circumstance of just kind of like, all the stuff you're going through, like, because he was trying to comfort her, being like, if you're not okay, you can come to me, which obviously this complicates things because it's like, well, her and Josh, because obviously she has a thing for Josh, obviously she still cares for Max, but it's just all this complicated mess of a situation. Even having the whole thing of like saying like, Jess was like, should we say a few words? And Murphy's the only one that says something. She's like, we're sorry, we're not bad people. And it's just that conversation is basically saying, we're not bad people, we're good people who did a bad thing. Bad things. I'm gonna have to pluralize that. There's also Sam. I was like, yo, Sam is dead set on revenge. It's like, no, like, Vince is like, don't worry about it, Josiah. They owe drugs to Josiah. The fact of the matter is they don't know where they are because Ben's the only one who knows where their drugs were. So Josiah will deal with them soon enough. But she was like, oh no, they're not the only ones responsible for Nia's death. Pow! I was like, shit. I was like, dude. Also, when they were outside Sterling's place, she's like, I'll deal with Sam and Vincent. Granted, you don't have to deal with Vincent anymore. You don't know that, but still, she's saying her goodbyes and everything. I was like, oh, please. I was on edge because I was like, oh, Sam's going to be waiting in your place, isn't she? And it's like, I mean, that might not, well, you would assume that might have been Sam's place that Sterling was staying at. So Sterling probably has her own place that maybe Sam doesn't know about. Because I just kept expecting to see Sam pop up again, but she didn't. But, it's the whole thing of like, obviously for Sterling, it's like, I care about you. She's like, I know, despite what Murphy says, like, I know you do care about me. I know you're apologetic about things being the way they are. And it's like, they do care about each other, and obviously for Jess, it makes this whole thing even harder because she did care about. It's like you believe her, but at the same time, it still just kind of leaves a nasty taste in your mouth when you're just like, everything we have was a lie. So it's just a complicated of a mess situation. So there's all of that. And so, also Max saying we did a good job, which I'm like, that's effed up to say after everything you did, just being like, oh, we did a good job. So it's like, well, we got to kind of get out of town, because if we stick around, it's like, because obviously Sam's going to be gunning for us. Once again, Josiah is going to be gunning for us. So where are we going to go? We got to go somewhere that has no association with any of us, because Felix was saying like, oh, let's go to a place, like his family's like cabin or something like that. But it's like, well, that might be tied to you, and people look stuff up. They might be able to trail them. So it's like, okay. So there's that. They're going to go get pretzel, and it's like, whoa, the door's busted in. Someone is like, oh no, Max is like, no, that was me. It's like, of course you did, you idiot. So they go in. I was like, it's going to be Sam. It's going to be Sam. Nope. Freaking Josiah waiting for him, which, to be fair, they could be like, okay, you might want your drugs. We kind of, circumstances led us killing Nia. Wait, what? Yeah, Nia's dead. He's like, probably still going to be like, yeah, okay, it's cool that she's dead. You still owe me her drugs. So before you can bounce, you got to help me out, which is like, well, let's not forget once again, Sam is still on their trail. There's also the thing of Dean knows that you killed Nia. They know that you covered stuff up. He also knows that Ben's dead, which are like, okay, so he could use this as a situation to manipulate Chelsea into helping him take them down. Like, I mean, well, would that even benefit him at this point in time? Not unless it would be a situation of he tries to use this as an opportunity to get his job back, because at least this way he'll have some shape or form of money and income coming in to, take care of his family, in particular, his daughter. So it's like, I just get the feeling like that whole Chelsea thing is going to come back to bite them in the ass. Like, because Dean having that knowledge, it's like, what's he going to do with that? What can he do with it? Like I said, those are my thoughts, but we'll kind of have to wait and see on that front. It also means, like, honestly, Felix is most likely going to break up with Chelsea, because like he would literally have to lie to her every day, because like he'd have to be around her, like probably losing her mind about like, oh, where's my brother? Like, oh, he was doing so good now. I hope he didn't go off the wagon. Like, have you seen him? Yada yada yada. And like that's the whole thing. So I know they still don't know this, but I'm curious to see if they'll ever find out. Like, obviously that Dean had a connection to Nia, that he's the reason why Nia ended up finding out the truth about them. I'm curious, are they going to ever find out that connection? Because it's like, wait, you put us in a position where we could have died. Once again, that's not the only one. Like, he put them in that position. He put his own partner in that position. Once again, not too much of a surprise, but it's like, okay. So there's that. There's also still the question, and I think I brought this up last episode too, how's Darnell going to react? Because it's not like, I mean, Sam might go to Darnell, maybe, because it's like that might be the only person I can turn to, but it's like, that's his sister. Granted, Sam doesn't know that. She doesn't know the familial connection to do. And I think that speaks volumes too. Like, despite all this, Sam is very ride or die, because it's like, oh, yo, they killed my boss. Like, nah, like, I'm about this life. So it's like, you killed, like, I guess because Nia gave her a job, gave her purpose, gave her a position. So it's like, she probably kind of looked at Nia like probably like her own sister, or maybe kind of like a mom. I don't know. But it's like, if Darnell finds out about this, I'm curious, or is he just gonna think his sister disappeared? I mean, like I said, that also depends on like what Sam does. Like, would Sam go to Darnell? Like I said, she might not have any other choice, because the other top ranking person is Vincent. She already took care of him. So, but to be fair, she knows that Darnell has a connection to that group, so he might not be at. I mean, I don't know, not unless she actually knows about the whole, like I said, just nothing points to her knowing about Darnell and Nia, but maybe she'll say it, and then Darnell will be like, oh, that was my sister, and Sam will be like, well, I had no idea. I don't know. There's so many different directions where this could go. Like, I'm so curious to see where all of this takes us going forward into the next episode. Dude, this is getting wilder and wilder by the episode, and I cannot wait to see what happens. Because I also just thought about it too. Let's not forget, Josh was investigating Nia. I forgot about that. Like, they were investigating, I mean, a whole bunch of agencies were investigating Nia and stuff like that. So, granted, so it's like they were looking for her drugs, but obviously her drugs were gone. But it's still a thing of like, Josh, this is supposed to be his white whale. So it's like, the moment they can't find, I mean, they'll probably just assume she must have got out of the country somehow or something like that. She's very like down low, which, I mean, I guess there's always a situation that Josiah could potentially use this against them, but being like, oh yeah, like holding this above their head of like, oh yeah, like I know you killed Nia, and somehow found out where the body was, so he could always blackmail them for this. So you kind of like there's no getting out of this, because you either pay me back the drugs, plus you probably owe me interest type of situation. So you're gonna be stuck working with me. Like, oh, you went from being underneath Nia's thumb to being under his. I don't know. This was the heavy ass criminal turn in this show I wasn't expecting, and I love it. So like I said, just so curious to see where things take us going forward. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and good